Let me bring in MSNBC military analyst, retired Colonel Jack Jacobs. Jack, this was the question. What would Iran consider to retaliate for the massive attack that was launched by and unprecedented attack launched by the U.S.? Again, we're getting this from Iranian state TV, but we have three new pieces of information that I want to get your reaction to. One is this attack. The second is that sirens are sounding not just at that base, but in Bahrain and Kuwait as well. And you have the president, defense secretary, and other key members of the administration in the Situation Room. Well,
the report was that there were half a dozen missiles, and we don't know how accurate that is. But clearly, if you wanted an off-ramp, to use the old trite expression, and you were Iran, you'd fire a bunch of missiles and be done with it, and hope that that was going to be the end of it. But it doesn't seem like that's the case. One report was that they were headed towards the our air base in Qatar, where, by the way, we have 10,000 troops or thereabouts.
Forward position of U.S. Central Command, 10,000 troops.
Correct. A likely target. But if sirens are also being heard in Bahrain and Kuwait, we have naval forces stretch all across the Middle East as well. It may mean that there are other missiles, which means that Iran has decided that it's not necessarily looking for a way to get off of this, get out of this problem, but in fact are raising the stakes. The trouble for Iran is that it's kind of stuck. It's got to do something, it thinks, in order to demonstrate that it's not weak. Don't forget, it's got a domestic audience as well, not the people, but the Republican guards, who in many respects may in fact be lots less progressive even than the mullahs, on the one hand, and the rest of the world also, though it's the domestic audience that they've got to be most concerned about. And second, to make sure that the United States understands that it's capable of responding to preclude further Western attacks. But if it really ups the ante by killing American troops, by sending multiple attacks out there in multiple places that also, by the way, damage people like the Qataris who are acting as intermediaries.
I want to make something very clear. The United States has bases all over the Middle East, right? We have soldiers that are deployed, it's the right term to use, in rotation every year all over the CENTCOM, Middle East region, all over the place. Qatar, Iraq, Kuwait, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Syria, etc. I just named at least 6 countries that the United States have bases in. And if you look at the map, Iran is not that far from any of them. It's right there. They're all very much in, a few hours distance. So a ballistic missile, any type of long range, missile can come in contact with these locations. And this is not a game. This is very serious. Iran, if they wanted to, and they have, can send missiles over to women and men, brothers in arms when it comes to the United States, and cause harm to the people that serve our nation. It's one thing when we bomb in facilities and we bomb in, weapons depots, and we bomb in, different locations, that storage locations, etc. It's a different story when you start bombing soldiers, when you start bombing people, and it get escalated, right? Luckily, the United States was able to shoot all of these missiles out the sky and did not cause any harm to any soldiers. The question for today is, are we at war? And what I mean by we, I'm talking about the United States of America. Are we at war? I would say at the moment, no. But that can change very quickly. If a United States soldier gets killed due to a missile strike from the Iranians, that could change very quickly. This whole situation can go from, we're at 2 or 3, we're going to get to 10 real fast, right? So the fact that the United States was able to, shoot out these missiles out the air, no soldiers was impacted. The region is very much protected when it comes to the Air Force Base, as well as the Army bases that we have over in the Middle East. We know the heightened security after this past weekend and the attacks that the United States had on the Iranian nuclear facilities. We know that region has been heightened when it comes to the, sensitivity and the alert when it comes to, the soldiers that's over there. But this becomes a very different situation if a missile hits a United States base, directly hits the United States base, and soldiers are killed and impacted, and families lost their loved ones due to a missile that directly came from Iran, and they publicly stated that they did it, right? Just keep that in mind as we move forward when it comes to this situation and how the United States will operate and the decisions that the president will make, as well as the Joint Chiefs, the generals, etc., the people that are in that room making these decisions, and what they need to take in consideration when it comes to, how or when the United States get into a direct conflict, possible boots on ground situation. And if that ever happens, that will not be good for anybody.
Then, in fact, all bets are off. And the likelihood of an American response that the Iranians did not anticipate, something really, really big, becomes greater. Don't forget, the Iranians are looking at the United States and come to the conclusion that the guy who's got his finger on the button is unpredictable. Well, if you're looking at somebody who's an adversary who's unpredictable, what you probably don't want to do is make them angry. And it depends on how long this attack is going to be, how widespread it's going to be, and whether or not it's going to stop after this attack. But if a lot of American troops are hurt, then all bets are off.
There is an Iranian semi-official news agency, Tasnim. They are saying that Iran has launched missile operations, what is called Basharat al-Fath, against U.S. bases in Qatar and Iraq. This basically translates to glad tidings of victory. The operation code phrase is Ya Aba Abdillah, which is a reference to Imam Hussein. So when you talk about messaging and the importance of the domestic audience that the Ayatollah and the people around him are most concerned about, just the name of it will tell you something. But let's consider more specifically the dangers here of escalation, because what the message was from supporters of the president, this was going to potentially just shut it down. This is not shutting it down.
Well, they keep talking about, the administration keeps talking about this being a war against the nuclear capability of Iran. And of course, that's where the attacks were. By the way, as an aside,
let me stop you for just a second, because Courtney Q.B., who is our reporter at the Pentagon, has gotten in front of a camera now. Talk to us about what we know about these bases. And very importantly, we've heard a lot over the last 36 hours or so about the defenses that are in place. So tell us about that.
Yeah, that's right. So one of the main bases that we're talking about here is Al-Udeid. That's in Doha. It's this sprawling, enormous air base that is actually owned by the Qataris, but the U.S. military has been there with thousands of troops operating off that base, largely airmen, for years now. Now, it does have extensive air defense systems in it. That's with ground-based systems, which we've been hearing a lot about in recent days, that have the ability to shoot down not only incoming missiles, but also drones. But they also have multiple fighter squadrons there, fighter jets, that have the ability to go up in the air and shoot down incoming as well. We've seen them do that in recent months. U.S. aircraft up shooting down incoming drones, and they can even take down certain missiles, Chris. So that is the defense that they have on the base. It is, as I said, an enormous, sprawling base right in Qatar. But there are other U.S. military installations that also are in the area that are well within the reach of Iran. One is the head of the U.S. Navy in the Middle East, known as Fifth Fleet. It's in Bahrain. There is also there are bases in Iraq as well, multiple bases there that have also come under attack in recent months from Iranian proxy groups, well within obviously range of Iran if they were to decide to go after one of those. Remember, Iran has actually targeted U.S. troops and the installation at al-Assad, which is in western Iraq. After the attack on Qasem Soleimani, they retaliated with a number of ballistic missile drones striking that base, causing a number of injuries among U.S. service members, primarily in traumatic brain injuries. Those are three of the main ones that we're looking at. But, Chris, there are a number of other installations there. And we cannot forget, we're not just talking about the U.S. military assets that exist on land. There are U.S. Navy ships at sea. They are also well within range. These are the sorts of assets that we're looking at right now. We're aware of the information that's coming across the semi-official Iranian news agencies. But at this point, the defense officials we're speaking to have not been able to substantiate any actual attack beginning. But a U.S. official that I spoke with did say that they were warned about the possibility of an imminent threat against a number of U.S. military bases in the region. That includes some of the ones I spoke with in Qatar, in Iraq, and in Bahrain and elsewhere. Chris?